Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefights podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Paul.
Oh, hi.
Yes, brother. How are you, my friend?
Oh, here we go. We're on. I'm on. How are you?
I'm awesome, my man. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good to talk to you.
You look really good. You look well.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. I'm not doing too bad. All right.
You must be recovering well. And I've just been over in Vietnam doing some exercise and some stuff with a few people, and we were just still struggling with foot rot and all this craziness. We're only there for a couple of weeks. How's your body feeling?
My body's not too bad. It's gone into a bit of a deeper recovery now. So some aches and pains that weren't there before are starting to come out. So some knee problems, but it's not end of the world. To be honest, it's probably because I've started to immobilize the movement that I'm doing so continuously.
Yeah,
that it's probably gone into a bit of shock. The opposite, so where people they go and do something quite extreme, or they do a marathon or an ultra marathon, for example, and might have bad knees afterwards. Because I've been doing it for so long, because I've stopped doing that movement, my knees now have to get used to not running like that and just walking everywhere.
Do you get kind of like dull aches? Do you know what I mean? Just like where you're not even moving, but it's just like, it's just something throbbing or frustrating. Did you get that at all?
Genuinely, like,
yeah.
Normally, I think, definitely. I think that the body's not built for not moving, is it? So, it's like anything. You leave a spanner outside, it's going to go rusty, or whatever it is. You don't use it. Your car, your motor's starting to give in. So, our bodies are made to be used, and if they don't, then they're going to start to.
I see you have been doing some sort of deload runs that you've been doing. Like, I was checking out your Strava. You've been doing like 5 and 6Ks a couple of times the last couple of weeks or the last week or so. Have you thought about this going into it? Have you taken any advice? Because there's probably a very small pool of people you could actually take advice for on the sort of thing you've done.
Yeah, no, I was very fortunate. I had one of the best ultra marathon runners, a lady called Carla Molinaro. She's a world record holder, and
wow.
She runs for GB. She was my coach for 12 months prior to my run. So she'd given me lots of advice, but she
what? Give us that insight. What on earth? Where does something like that start? She must have had to give you like the bullshit test to start with, because that sort of person is a consummate professional. They haven't got time to waste for people that aren't. Did she need to know that you had skin in the game? Obviously, we can get on to talking what it means to you, but some people, it can mean everything to me. Oh, I'd do anything for it. Yeah, okay, but can you actually do this?
Yeah, I mean, number one thing, she approached me. She saw me on BBC News. She didn't approach me to coach me. She approached me just to give me some advice, some friendly advice, because she'd been through that sort of stuff before. And we just got on really well. She found out a bit about my military career and where I've been and what I've done and the reasons why I'm doing the run. And then when my initial run, which was supposed to be November 2020, got delayed because of COVID, I decided, well, I'm not going to be starting my run for another 12 months. Let's get a professional coach, see if what I can learn from them. So I phoned her back up and we had a good conversation, and she said she'd love to be involved, but she got a whole list of people who've been waiting for years for her to be their coach. And then so I said, no problem. Hung up the phone. 2 minutes later, she phoned back and she said, it's such a great cause, I can't not be part of it. So she took me on board.
Massive props. So what did that look like? I know it's hard to do, but give us kind of and we're not going to give away the secrets of obviously a professional coach or anything like that, but what did the training look like? What were some of the surprises? Because some people might go, oh, it's just progressive load, it's just progressive distances, and then taper off before you begin. But I'm sure it was a little more complex than that.
Yeah, it was a bit more complex. It wasn't. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, it was nowhere near as intensive as anyone would think. Yeah. And I was genuinely getting worried. Before, when I was doing my own training, I was doing like 20, 25, 30-mile runs. And I think within that 12 months, the furthest I ever ran with her, probably about 14, 15 miles.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, Carla, look, I'm about to go on a 5,000-mile run. What's going on? She had me doing lots of strength and conditioning, lots of balance work, standing on one foot and one leg. And I was thinking, is she having me on here or what? But like the standing on one's foot for such a long time,
Yeah.
All the little muscles in your feet start to work. You've got hundreds of them, and they all start to kick in, and you can feel it happening. And it's actually really difficult. Try standing on your on one leg with your eyes closed. It's a very difficult thing, and you can feel all your muscles work, and it takes time and effort and practice to actually stand for maybe 30 seconds with your eyes closed. But what she was doing, she knew all the different terrain that I was going to go over. I've got 10-kilogram bag on my back. She knew that those, if my muscles in my feet weren't strong enough, then it's going to cause injuries further up the line. Yeah. So yeah, she was very clever.
So the worst thing people could do would have been like, oh, I'm doing 30-mile marathon on the road every day, and I'm just trying to build that conditioning. And their ankles, like you say, I suppose with such a colossal thing like this, it's an endurance event, but it's more like avoid injury for this long. Is must have been a massive piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about avoiding injury. When you've got the grit and you've got the conditioning and you've got the purpose behind you, you can do anything. But it's like this sort of thing. But what you need is to avoid injury. Injury is something sometimes you can't necessarily always predict or, in your power. So you can do everything else apart from that, and then just try and avoid injury through stuff like we spoke about, through working hard on the feet and other parts of the body.
So I want us to cycle back. So for people that are unfamiliar with it, you did 18 years in the military. You did 5 tours.
5 tours, yeah.
5 tours of Iraq, and through all of your operational career and stuff like that, you saw, I'm sure, a tremendous amount of things. But then one of the biggest surprises to you was this fact of mental health and how it has such a catastrophic effect on people, and we see it all across the emergency services. One of my colleagues took his own life last month, unfortunately, and he was only in his early 30s, and it really rocked a lot of us. Take us back to when you first started the military and what you thought it was going to be like going in, because I'm going to blow smoke up your ass for a second. It's going to sound like such bullshit, but you don't look massively old. So what are you 30s, 40s? Because I'm trying to put the pieces together. You did 18 years. Did you start straight out of school?
Yeah, pretty much. So when I was 16 years old, when I was 8 years old, I watched a commando program on ITV, and that really got me excited. I didn't know anyone in the military, but I just loved the idea of running around with a bunch of lads, firing weapons, getting stuck into the nitty gritty, and rolling around in mud, all that sort of stuff. And it just stuck with me. And I used to watch war films, and I just love the thought of being on a battlefield, if you like, with a group of guys. And as soon as I turned 16, that thought never left me. So I wanted to go and join the Royal Marines. My mum persuaded me to go to the college for at least for a little while. So I tried that. 2 months in, I was like, no, this nagging isn't going away. I want to go and join. So she agreed. So at 16 years old, I went to go and join the Royal Marines. I ended up joining the army in the end. And yeah, that was it. So, but the reason it was 18 years, so I left age 16 to 34. 35. Yeah. So,
why did you choose to leave? Because the career length of people in the military always confuses me, because there's just such varying lengths, and for some people it's catastrophic injury, or some people just lose the love for it, or they just want to explore other avenues, or it doesn't work life balance. What was it for you?
There was 2 different factors. I never fell out of love with being in the military. I was a soldier through and through. I was very good at it. I love the process. I love what it's all about. I still do. I would talk anybody into joining the armed forces, because I think it's a fantastic career to go down, both for your mental health, if it's done correctly, but also just for your life experiences. Firstly, because I've done 5 tours of Afghanistan and Iraq, the one bit where the armed forces get things wrong is they're very good at getting you battle ready, getting you into that warrior mindset, ready to go into war, into battle, and then they put you into it several months at a time. And then when you come back out, they just expect you to go back into normality. There's no wind down, there's no bringing you back down, and then they train you back up again, and you go back out, and then you come back, and it's a process.
Yeah.
And they get you to that mindset. It's very difficult for a lot of people to understand, but to go forward, to take people's lives, to be shot at continuously every day, to watch bombs go off, to watch your friends die, and to continue, you have to be in a serious battle-ready mindset. And to get to that stage, you're quite a dangerous weapon to some extent. But then they put you back into society, and you're still a dangerous weapon. But yet, and now it's up to you to deal with that. There's no one there to support you, and that's why there's a lot of marriages, lots of problems, lots of men and women can't really deal with their emotions and feelings. They're all quite young. The armed forces is a young place to be, and it's a very confusing place. So the two factors for myself for leaving, the main one was I lost in a 3-year period 11 friends to suicide, which is just crazy. I never knew one person before that 3-year period. I never even knew of a person that had taken their life, and then all of a sudden in 3 years, 11 people had taken their lives that I knew. And I was
were they still serving at the time? Sorry, or they left?
Some were still serving, and some had left. It's probably about, I think it was 7 had left, and the rest were still serving. But also, I was suffering quite badly with paranoia because of this going back and forth, which I was just talking about, and not being able to deal, my brain not being able to relax, and always being in a high, steady state of alertness. So I felt that I could potentially be the next person as well. But I was very fortunate. I managed to take myself away, learn multiple different ways how I can improve my own mental well-being through multiple different holistical methods that anyone can use in their day-to-day life. I started to feel better, but then I lost so many friends. So I was like, this is it. I'm not sitting back and watching this happen no more. I'm going to get out along with 3 others and do something about this.
So was that very much just a self-exploration, just sort of, with the greatest respect, like fumbling around in the dark, looking for methods and processes and strategies for general mental health? Because mental health is such a massive spectrum, when we look across society. And like you say, something that we suffer from in the emergency services and frontline responders, but I think even to a heightened sense for yourselves, is that adrenal fatigue, is that, like for us, it's lying down waiting for the bells to go off all the time, but at least we get that relief where we're then at home, theoretically. But then you struggle with what we call like empathy exhaustion, where you've been in a high octane environment, across the world, and then you come back and people try and explain to you their mediocrity and how they're struggling with their life, and there's just such a chasm of like relation. You can't relate to them and they can't relate to you. So what were these methods or strategies that you're speaking of, and is there any that you could share with us that maybe people could just like give them an inkling to go in the right direction with?
Oh, absolutely. And this is what our charity is all about, Head Up Charity. Everything I speak about now is pretty much what we're going to be doing at our 7-day positive mindset retreat. When I initially got help, after years and years of pretending everything was okay and it wasn't, the pot was over boiling and the water was coming out, if you like. And
what did that feel like? Sorry to interrupt you there, but I know you said paranoia, but when this pot was overfilling, what made you think this isn't fucking normal? Something is very wrong here.
Well, I'll give you a very good example. When I came back from my 4th tour of Afghanistan, I was walking around the streets and I just felt like there was someone over my shoulder. I felt like someone was watching me. I thought every single person, like if I was on a bus or a train, I thought every single person was talking about me. And what I'd have like 2 minds, and it's almost felt like I was going mad. I'd have one saying, they're talking about you, you need to do something about this. And there'd be another one going, stop it, you're just being paranoid. And it's really conflicting, and they're both like very strong. But then one day in Piccadilly, in central London, about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I was on the train and I saw an Asian man with a bag on. And he looked typically Afghanistan looking, the sort of people that I was, Taliban people that I was fighting. And somehow I convinced myself that he had a bomb in it. And as he got off the train, I jumped on him, held his hands down so he couldn't pull a trigger, shouted to everyone to run. He had got a bomb. Everyone ran away. Bomb squad and police came in, called in the area, checked him as I was still laying down on top of him for about 2 hours with his hands on the ground. And I'm thinking, I've captured someone who's got a bomb. I'm going to be like a hero of the national hero.
Well, even you were just doing it for the right reason anyway, not for that adulation, just because that's what you've been trained to, isolate the threat.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it for a hero. In my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't believe it. I've actually caught someone. And next thing you know, I'm in handcuffs getting taken away. And I was like, what are you doing? And that was it. That was kind of like, wow, this is some serious problems going on right here.
But even with that, I mean, were they quick to just let you go, or were they like, look, we really thank you for your service, but something's wrong here, mate. You need to get some support? Because so often we have a visceral feeling that people are struggling with something, but they just get falling through the gaps of the system sometimes.
Well, what happened after that? The police were fantastic, by the way. Like, amazing. Even the chief constable come down and was like, everything's okay, mate. And he was like, do you think you got PTSD? I was like, no, of course I haven't. He was like, okay. And he went and phoned up my regiment. They came down and got me. And they sent me to Afghanistan for 9 months.
Fuck me. They went, yeah, we've got a weapon, put it back in the war.
Exactly that. But I was relieved because I'm going back to a place where I can, this paranoia is real. Yeah. It's not made up. So, so from there, when I came back, things started to deteriorate again. I finally got some help through a lot of people persuading me to. The first thing they'd done was putting me on medication for 6 weeks, which I really didn't want to do. I was like, well, why are you putting me on medication? And then after the 6 weeks, which I really didn't like taking it, I ended up talking to a psychiatrist for a few weeks, and it wasn't working. It wasn't for me. And the biggest thing I said to my doctor was, all the help you get in the armed forces is in the armed forces. So I said, if I was a burns victim, would you treat me next to an open fire? Or if I was in a road traffic accident, would you treat me next to a road? And they were like, no. I said, well, why, as an armed forces personnel, are you treating me inside an armed forces environment? So how's that ever going to make me any better? And they was like, sorry, but this is all we got, which isn't acceptable. That
still blows my mind, because this is, I know it's been a thing that's been progressively growing. I mean, in our sector, maybe for the past 10 years, and I think because a lot of the trim stuff came from the military as well, so it's been around 15 years, but it seems like it's just not getting... I don't want to say we don't care, but is there something less important when someone takes their own life? Because when someone gets shot abroad, or when we're killed by an assailant or a foreign hostile or something like that, it gives them so much attention because it falls under that bracket of war. But that inner war, when someone chooses to take their own life, it's like we just push it into the public sector and go, this is someone else who's committed suicide. And I'm not saying we don't care, because again, there's obvious with charities like yourself, there's a massive uprising of that. But what's it like now in the armed services? I'm assuming you still have contact with some people, and we're not going to slate anybody or name any names or anything, but what's it like now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge problem. You said unfortunately you lost a friend a month ago. I started my run 7 months ago after losing 11 friends. About 2 months into my run, I lost another 3 more friends. And 2 weeks ago, a young 18-year-old from my regiment took his life.
Is there any correlation? Sorry, we don't want to get too graphic. In fact, maybe it's been a bad question, but is there any correlation in the way that people are choosing to do this? Because
people seem to be hanging themselves.
Okay.
That seems to be the main one. I don't know.
We have a lot of people jumping off bridges in the public sector. We have a lot of people jumping off all buildings, or just throwing themselves off. Threat to jump is the suicides that we tend to go to. But I can't take myself to that mindset. I did some stupid stuff when I was very young, but never got into a point where I really put a plan in place. Because that's often the question I ask people is, have you planned how you're going to do it? Because that's when you really start to put a little bit more context around how real this is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I can't go too deep into it because I don't have the answers. I've got my own personal opinions to a certain point.
Hey folks, just wanted to jump in with a quick piece around firefighter health and wellbeing. Whether you are trying to join the fire service and pass them tricky fitness tests, if you are currently serving, or if you are coming up to that next chapter of your life, retiring from the emergency services, we get so many different questions around it. So in partnership with Fitness for the Frontline, we have come up with a series of guidance and programs specifically designed to reflect the physical elements of the role of a firefighter. So whether it's carrying an LPP across an overgrown field, lifting a ladder above your head under running it, or wrestling with cutting gear for 30 plus minutes at some kind of complicated RTC, our bodies are required to lift, push, and carry objects in very specific circumstances. That is effectively what Fitness on the Frontline focuses on, as well as the longer term aspects of overall health and wellness for our firefighters. Now, we are definitely not about to be smashing out world records or getting that beach body ready in 6 weeks rubbish. The systems and programs that we put in place are adjusted for people's current fitness levels, and they're not a prescriptive weight or a one-size-fits-all BS. It is very likely for myself personally that I'm still going to be a firefighter when I'm 60 plus, so longevity in the role is really important to me, and I know it is for so many people out there. It all starts with no obligation, 7 days worth of the programming, absolutely free. So whether you're joining, serving, or looking at the next chapter in your life, Fitness for the Frontline is designed by firefighters for firefighters. Now back to the show.
So when you asked sort of why is some suicide not being publicly spoke about when there's such high numbers, but yet when you see someone get shot abroad, it's very much highlighted. My personal opinion is simply due to recruitment. The last thing you want to see before sending your son or daughter into an armed forces thing is all these people taking their lives. Yeah. So going back to the word committed suicide. So I've been told maybe about a year ago, I've been asked politely from some family members who lost their family members to suicide. They said, please don't say committed, because what happens in the armed forces is when you take your life, it's still deemed as a crime.
Yeah.
So no matter what you've done in your career, you take your life, you're then dishonorably discharged, and the family receive a letter of dishonorable discharge. You've been charged even though you're dead.
Yeah.
And it means that they're not entitled to any money, any pension, any benefits.
Oh shit!
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it means that your name doesn't go on any sort of memorial, because what they don't want is suicide written next to every single name all over these memorials. Because again, how a bad recruiting thing would that be?
I mean, I'm an optimist. I would love to think that they've done that accidentally, because it's just because I know in the public sector, like with the police and stuff, it always used to be a crime, and now it's successfully something like the act of suicide. They've successfully taken out the act of suicide or something. I forget how they term it now, but. You think, is it still the case with that then? Even now, then, if they do commit, it's still in their policies that is considered, what is it, because it's a dishonourable act, or because they've taken the life of a serving personnel, but the fact is it's them that they've taken?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't actually know.
Stupid grey area, that is.
Yeah, but the reason I know about it is because I'm in touch with so many family members that are trying to fight this at the moment. You know, they've actually got a letter saying dishonourable discharge, and they're like, why would you send that to me? Like, you know,
that is such a horrific thing to have to receive after that first bit of news, saying not only has your family member tragically taken their own life, but we're also not proud of them. You know, the people they've given time to. We don't want to be seen aligned with them. They're taking us into disrepute. You know, we're discarding them. We're shunning them after everything they've given to us, and what we've put them through has ultimately taken them to this point. Amongst some other factors, I'm sure there's lots of people that don't carry out the act of suicide in the armed services, but Jesus Christ, I can't imagine what that's going through for those families.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it is very sad. Yeah, it's very sad. But just going back to your question earlier, so I got some help. I received a bit of help, and then what I'd done, and it wasn't really working for me. And I said, like, you know, I was still in the environment, and I felt really bad. I felt like I was going to, potentially be the next number, and I didn't want to be. So I just said, look, I'm going away for 3 months. Thankfully, my doctor signed me off. I rented a house up in St Albans, just north of London, away from all military establishments. And I spent 3 solid months of continuously every single day trying to improve my mental well-being and my positive outlook at life. And I looked from YouTubing, Googling, reading books, listening to podcasts, all sorts of stuff. I started to implement or find out ways, having better understanding and awareness of nutrition, fitness, hormones, sleep cycles, journaling, affirmations, animal therapy, music therapy, cold water therapy. I looked into stuff like stoicism, the law of attraction, just so many different things. But I didn't just look at it. I actually delved into it. So, for example, nutrition, I started to learn about the gut microbiome and what you put in your mouth and how it affects what's going on inside of your gut, and then the gut relation from the gut to the brain, and how that then affects your mood throughout the day. And it's incredible.
Wow.
And you're like, wow, no wonder why I feel crap if I'm eating all this, drinking all this stuff.
Yeah.
But then I started putting everything into practice, and within about 2 or 3 weeks, I felt amazing and best I've ever felt in my life.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Could you narrow it down to 1 or 2 or 3? Because I mean, like, the nutrition aspect fascinates me. Is it any deeper than, because even just doing what we call the basics, you know, like good hydration, good sleep cycles, not having foods high in sugars and all that sort of stuff. What depth were you taking it to, and was there any small takeaways that, you know, when you give advice to people?
I was taking it to I went quite deep, to the point where I had a very, and I was able to, because I wasn't working at the time because I was on sick leave. But I had a very strict routine every day. So, for example, I get up, and because I was just implementing things that other people said. So I get up and I'd say stuff like, "Thank you for another day," and then I'd come out of bed and I'd put my feet on the ground and I'd say something that I'm grateful for.
Gratitude, always, baby, 100%.
Gratitude, exactly, yeah. And then I'll have a pint of water straight away to hydrate the body, because I learned about, you know, how much water we use to go into recovery.
When you're lying with your mouth open, all of that water vapor that just goes out your body, mate. That you're so right.
Exactly, and it's just little things like this. And I'll go to brush my teeth, and I'll have some things on my mirror that I then have to repeat and do before I go and do anything else. I'll make sure the bed's made first thing. So just really good routines. And then I'll get my journal, I'll do that. Then I'll say my affirmations, and then I'll do my deep breathing techniques. And then this is what, half an hour into my day, and already it's like a whole bunch of stuff I've already done. So, and you can, just listening to that, you can see how good that is for you. But then you got a whole day's worth of it. And within 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then I reached out to some friends that I knew were really struggling. I said, look, just let me help you implement some of these bits. And after a few weeks, they felt pretty good. And then they told their friends and their friends. And before you knew it, I had about 30 different people I was helping on a daily basis. And that's
was there any kind of hesitations? Because some of the stuff we're talking about there is really good, but also a lot of it lives in the world of self-help, which sometimes is the freaking Wild West. Do you know what I mean? When we're looking at the high five, clapping hands, American style, and a lot of this works, but some people can hear it and go, oh, no, I'm not doing that bullshit. You know, I've heard about this, I've heard about that. But I suppose when people get to a point of, desperation, with the greatest of respect, were people totally receptive of it, or were some people a bit like, mate, breathing exercises, really?
Yeah, but then so some people go breathing exercises, what meditation, and it's not for me. And you breathe, don't you? All I'm saying is just take some deeper breaths. And then when you're doing them deeper breaths, you can think about maybe the day ahead. You can think about whatever. You don't have to. Not everything has to be so extreme or a certain level. And you can make it up to yourself. I was doing other people's different meditations, just seeing what worked for me.
What does meditation mean to you? Sorry, just to pause there for a second, because like some people think meditation is in the lotus position with your forefinger and thumb touch, saying Om and all that sort of shit. Whereas meditation for me is just being present. Like I could just stare at a tree for 10 minutes. That's meditation for me. But what does it mean to you?
No, I'm exactly the same as you. Meditation. I think I have two of the best meditative states when I'm running on my own, nice, and when I'm in a bath. I honestly do. But at the same time, I can go, because I've practiced it quite a lot, I can sit down on a field or on a chair, and I can go into a more meditative state where I'm not really present on Earth, but I'm, not in reality, but I'm more present in a more of another dimension, if you like.
And an energy state, yeah.
An energy state, that's a better way of saying it. But then, but it comes in all sorts of forms, and people don't have to, it's not just a case of, sitting in the lotus position, like you said, and humming. Yeah. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to do that.
I couldn't do that, yeah. So take us back to, you'd started using all these methods. I'm guessing this is kind of the moment where you thought, this could be like a thing. I've done it for 3 months. Maybe we could do it for like a weekend or a day or 7 days or something like that. When did you start thinking about that? Because you actually founded the charity, right? Were you one of the founders?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And then another 3 very good friends jumped on board, and I only wanted them 3, and I thought, well, if these 3 don't do it, then it's not going to happen. But thankfully, they all said yes. So yeah, it was a niggle in my head. I knew something was going to happen, or needed to happen, but I didn't know what. And during the first lockdown, I ended up escaping to the Highlands in Scotland, and with 3 other people. I had this urge to run around Loch Tay. I didn't know how far it was, but I just knew it was quite far. And then towards the end of lockdown, we didn't know it was coming to the end, but it was about a couple of weeks before the end. One day I said, I'm doing it. I'm just going to go run around it. I did. I put my trainers on, and off I went, and it was 34 miles circumference, which is further than I've ever ran before at that point. And it all came to me as an epiphany. It just came to me. Well, set up a 7-day positive mindset retreat with all these holistical different self-help methods that people can use in their own day-to-day life. Lots of the other different things came to me, and then I was like, well, how am I going to get the word out there? I don't know anything about business or charities, and all I've been doing for the last 18 years is running around with a gun. So I was like, well, let's use my strengths. What can I do? I'm quite a fit guy. I've got determination. I've got grit.
You said you're never much of a runner, though, because I'm looking back at some of your stuff. You look quite thick set in the military. You were very standard, you look like you could shift some weight as well. Have you always done running, or?
I've always done running, not long distance. No. Yeah. I very much call myself a sportsman. So like stuff from everything from football, rugby, skiing, sailing, bodybuilding, CrossFit, just all sorts. So, but yeah, I did lose a lot of muscle
I was
mass.
gonna say how much did you have to check? Because I'll be honest with you, mate. Like I've ruptured my right patella tendon. That's why I'm sat in the way that I am at the minute. I ruptured it a few weeks ago, so I'm progressing into that different phase of life where I did all the strongman and the crazy other shit and all the stuff before. Now I'm getting into that more endurance mindset. But that can be a real ego shift as well when you've seen yourself as, yeah, well, I like to hold a bit of muscle and I like to feel strong. How much did you have to change your body to come into the challenge that you decided to then undertake?
Let my body change it by itself.
Yeah.
I just started running. I started using gym less and I started running more and let the body do whatever it needed to do. I didn't overthink it. I knew that the purpose behind this was bigger than my own ego and myself. Yeah, I think a lot of people are surprised how I didn't lose as much weight. I have lost a lot, but as in muscle mass. But I think a lot of people thought I was going to come back looking like Mo Farah, but
No,
I
yeah,
did.
you still got a bit to you. I saw you on when you last. One of the last few days that you did was one of the biggest days, wasn't it? In fact, sorry, just rewind. Tell us, you decided then, obviously, to undertake this because you needed to get the word out. Take us from there. Sorry.
Yeah, so I just thought, well, I know I need to talk to people. I need everyone around the UK to know about who we are and what we're doing, even though I hadn't had a charity by this point. So I came. I thought, well, why don't I just run around the UK and run all around it, just talking to people, giving talks, meeting people, and get some attention and some funding. And that was kind of. Then I just kind of put the word out there, told everyone I was doing it. Not really any plan. Didn't really have a charity, just an idea. Didn't know how charities work. And then because people then started going, oh, Paul's doing this, Paul doing that, and social media got hold of it. And then next thing you know, BBC Breakfast phoned me up and said, oh, do you want to come on tomorrow talk about your run? I was like, oh, bloody hell! Like
Wow.
I only said it to a few friends.
So had you already committed to a start date by this point when the BBC got in contact and stuff like that? It's great to
Well,
see
once
that
they
that
got in
came to
touch,
you.
yeah, once they got in touch, I was like, I better put a start date
Let's
to
fucking
it.
do
So,
it then.
and then that was it. It was real. And then all of a sudden, hundreds and hundreds of people were contacting me and like, how can we help? I was like, bloody hell, let's get this thing going. And that was how it kind of started, really.
So how do you start a charity? What's the process of that? How much of a headache was that? What help did you get? Is there anybody we need to acknowledge?
It was a lot of hard work. I had no idea really. There was a few people from different charities, semi-mentor, just gave you some advice, which is really nice of them. But they tried. Some of them actually wanted to help with the process of it, and I said no, I didn't want them to. I want to learn about how to do it myself, even if it means hitting roadblocks. I want to know each section how it all works. And we hit so many roadblocks. It was unreal. Like just because we didn't know what we were doing, we're a bit
Yeah.
foolish, but that's okay. That's how people learn. There's different statuses to charities, and we wanted the full status, so we get audited very highly. We're very transparent. Everyone can see everything that goes on financially, but we also get more tax benefits. But 95% of charities out there in the UK are sort of investment charities. They have to be for a lot of the times. People invest and they get it back. But we didn't
Yeah.
want to do that. We're not businessmen. We're not. We don't know about charities, and we didn't want to be manipulated in any way. So we've gone for status. We're non-investable.
It is a
Pure
bit of a
dough.
minefield, isn't it? That's like you say, as you start to learn more about it, you're like, oh, okay. So they do still help people, but it's a very efficient machine that's turning a lot of money over there. And
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
forget that, some people, and you kind of do want the heads of some of these charities who have thousands and thousands of employees, you do want them to be smart and intelligent people, but some of the salaries involved are also, it's a difficult one, because you're like, well, people do deserve to get paid for what they do. So, yeah, it's a minefield going into it, I'm sure.
It is. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, so we set our charity up. Went back and forth with them. Fine. During the lockdown as well. Finally got it. So yeah, we're up and running as of August 2021.
Jesus. So this officially started your event you're running. So March 1st, wasn't it, this year?
March 1st this year.
You
Yeah.
finally managed to get it over the line. One of the fascinating things I wanted to ask you about, which is a kind of a silly little thing, but 7 pairs of trainers. How did we land at 7? And how did that work? And how did you know how long trainers lasted? And a random little thing, but as I was reading through the story, I thought, let's start there.
Yeah. No, trainers. I have to be honest. How many pairs of trainers is the most asked question? So, but seven is the amount I used, and there was no real science behind it. It was let's wear one into the ground until I feel like I can't take it anymore, and then just get another pair.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And because of the different terrain and the ruggedness of the terrain that I was going over, it didn't take long for a lot of the soles to wear away. And because I'm pounding continuously, almost for like 6 to 8 hours each day, The actual inner souls are starting to collapse as well. So it doesn't take long.
Did you stick with the same stuff all the time? Did you get your gait measured? Did you go to one of them special shops and make sure it was all dialed in? I'm sure that's something the coach probably would have made you do.
No, I'm not really that sort of person.
Okay.
Because I come from a reconnaissance military background, we're very flexible. We don't really care too much, We just get on with whatever, and don't take life too seriously.
Okay. So what does reconnaissance role look like when you're in the military? What's the sort of day-to-day activities and what are they expected to do operationally?
When I'd say the most reconnaissance used job, because in Afghanistan we couldn't really do much reconnaissance, so we were more just like sort of hit squads, if you like. But in Iraq, we done reconnaissance as we were supposed to. So we'd go forward, small man teams, maybe 4 to 6 of us, dropped off a helicopter at night, make our way to a certain location to either put an observation post in a bush, in a rooftop, underground, wherever it may be, and then we'll lay there for 2-3 weeks maybe, and just observe the enemy, observe the insurgents, gather as much information and intelligence on them as possible, and then get out of there and let the special forces do what they need to do with it.
I actually literally heard there's a podcast called Covert. I don't know if you've heard of it. They were doing a recaching of Operation Certain Death. It was something in Vietnam and they were taught most of the beginning of that was around that 4-man insertion team that go in, dig the hides, and they said, you move at inches every hour. It's just about slowly moving, and the colossal patience and endurance that you've got to have to just sit in a hole for potentially even weeks at a time in your own piss and eating very slowly to avoid detection. That must have been such a thing to train for.
Yeah, absolutely. You become very close with your buddies, let's say that, because you have to help each other go toilet in every aspect. You feed each other quite often. Someone starts to, because you do get very tired if someone starts to maybe snore or wince. You have to poke each other constantly and put your hands over the mouth so they don't say anything. So sometimes,
awesome.
I think I'll give you a good example. There was about maybe 80, 90 insurgents came past we was in the bush. There was only 4 of us, 2 meters away, every single weapon you can think of. And we just sat there, the 4 of us, maybe no more than 2 meters away, just watching them past. You can't be sneezing, you can't be farting, anything.
You can't be fucking nothing. If anything's crawling over you, if anything does anything, it's fucking just shut up and lie there.
You want to make sure none of your machines, you're like, did I turn it on silent?
Yeah. Fucking hell.
So, but it's very exhilarating at the same time. So you get away with it.
But again, that aspect of it, and we probably don't have the data, but I would imagine for somebody from a mental perspective, somebody having to do that job versus, I'm not even going to pretend to know any of the roles in the military, but that level of, I'm right next to these people. My everything, my adrenaline, everything is firing. And to be there for days and days and then that adrenal fatigue is just ridiculous, versus I'm sure one of the other many roles which are vital, but still very different.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just go, you come out of that and straight back into normal society as if like nothing ever happened. And you're going to have problems. The brain is so complicated and complex. It can't just handle itself. It won't be able to deal with it itself. Very rarely.
I wanted to jump forward to some of the stuff you went through the event, because as I was looking through, there's a couple of names that kind of jumped out. David Critchley, you had a good catch up with David on one of the days. Talk to me about how important it was to, or even now, to sort of stay in touch with people that have gone through different experiences. I mean, in the emergency services, we talk about decompressing with the teams and just shooting the shit to try and help normalize things. What was it like catching up with David?
Phenomenal. So I was just telling you about Iraq. He was one of my 4-man team.
Oh, no way.
And I haven't really seen him. I've seen him a few more times. He lives in Wigan. He got out after that tour. I mean, it was a bit much for him. It was pretty intense. And he wanted to get out and have a family. So he done the right thing. He done the right thing. And he got out and he surprised me in Wales. Didn't know he was coming. He's from Wigan. He got he drove down to Liverpool, got on a train over to Wales and come and met me. And just seeing his face, I was like, wow, amazing, a real good catch up. I think he ended up running, maybe he ran like 28 miles or something like that. I think he won't run them more than 5 or 6 normally.
Yeah.
But we had a real good catch up. He pushed himself, and then he came and saw me at the end. But it's so important to just just meet people, put a smile on your face. And I'm sure you know there's people you haven't seen for a long time, and then all of a sudden their face pops up, and it's just pure elation and happiness and joy, isn't it?
They're the true friends for me. I'm like one of those, I haven't got to see people every day or even every week or every month. I don't care if I don't see you for 3 years or whatever. Those are the people that, I could just go and stay with them for a weekend and have just an absolutely amazing time. They're the people that are the closest to me and the ones I think I value the most. I wanted to ask you about sort of when you had 8 days to go, you did your biggest day. So you did 43 miles at a strong click as well. You were 10-minute mile in most of them. What was it like, and what sort of position was your body in so late into it and having to, take on such a big day?
So that's when I was in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland was lovely. When I got off the ferry to Northern Ireland, some sort of like gypsy lady, if you like, was talking to me, and she said, "You will have good weather here in Northern Ireland," and something else like may the good Irish luck or whatever be with you.
Yeah.
And she didn't lie. It was perfect weather the whole way through. And every day was supposed to rain the next day, and it wasn't. So I had really good weather, which really helped. It was all on road because they don't have a coastal path in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
They just have roads that run alongside them. So I was pretty much on the flat road as well. So I was able to run properly. My body was so conditioned to running by this point, and it was just relieved not to be on sand or pebbles or cliff edges or rugged rocks. So no, I was able to run properly, and I was so close to the end. I just wanted to eat up these miles. I just wanted to get there and get it done.
Shut it out.
So I to run 42 miles, I could probably have done 50, 60, 70. My body was just like both inside and out, it's so conditioned. Yeah.
Wow. So what did you learn about people during this whole time? Because one of the things I enjoyed most, going through your Strava and going through your story was all the different people that you'd met along the journey. What did you learn about people during that whole time? Because I imagine being in the military for so long, and it's not for me to guess, but you don't get as much interaction with the general public, and perhaps your perception of what people are like and the moral compass of society may change a little bit. What did you find it, and how was it going around there?
Yeah, so what did I do? 218 days. And when I set off, some people had heard about what I was doing, but not lots. What I really realized is that unless you speak to someone and say, "Oh, you're able to help with this," or you just have to make a conversation, then if someone doesn't know whether to do something for you, or that you may like them to do something for you, then they just don't know. So when I put a shout out saying I'm looking for a place to stay, I'm looking for people to run with me, I'm looking for people to come out and support if you're able to, or I want to give talks to people. And then once people heard my shout out and my call for action, I was absolutely astonished by the amount of people that just got on board. People from all walks of life: military, emergency services, teachers, fishermen, lords, MPs, just all sorts. People with far left views, far right views, everyone in between, fit people, unfit people. It didn't matter. Just people just wanted to come and say, "Good luck, well done. It's a great thing you're doing. Can I help you? Would you like some water? Do you like some food? Do you want to stay at mine for the evening?" And
I bet you had some gorgeous meals.
Some really lovely meals. I'm actually a plant-based eater, so people had to go out their way to make nice meals for me, and they did. Every single person did, and really nice. So I ran with over 700 different people from all ages and all abilities. I stayed with over 200 different people, and thousands of people come out to support me. And I gave dozens and dozens of talks and business conversation and business meetings along the way. So it was, and I never had not one bad interaction in the whole 7 months. Not one.
That's incredible. I'm going to ask you about that then. Plant-based eating, when did you shift over?
During the first lockdown. So my girlfriend is a plant-based, she's vegan, and I'm not. It was never an issue between us. But I still kept getting mood swings throughout the day, and I felt lethargic, didn't sleep great at night. But she had perfect energy in it, and she goes to sleep really well. And I said, "Look, what do you think it is?" So she said, "Probably my diet." So I've done 4 months training program and a meat eating diet, tested all of my systems, VO2, heart rate, blood pressure, recovery time, mood swings. Then I've done exactly the same on the plant-based, and I saw a huge drastic change, especially with recovery. So recovery, I was, say, for example, taking one session, it might take me 16 to 18 hours to recover. It was taking me half an hour on a plant-based diet. So I was like, well, I'm definitely doing my run on a plant-based diet. And the more you look into it, a lot of athletes, especially endurance athletes, multi-day endurance athletes, they will go on a plant-based diet building up to the event, during the event, and then go back to a meat-eating diet after, because it's, there's a lot of science behind it. And I can tell you firsthand that, I recovered every single day.
I was going to say, because that's the recovery aspect. We said about it earlier, not the body not continually breaking down and being able to recover, because you've got literally a bath, 2 hot meals, and then you're straight back after it again. So that must have been one of the secret weapons to it. What does it look like moving forwards now? Because in a similar fashion to coming back from, working overseas and stuff like that, there must be a period of recalibration and adaptation now, where it's kind of like when you talk about athletes or astronauts or something like that. You've done this colossal thing. How do you, again, another point in your life, another chapter, reinsert yourself back into normal life, and what's exciting you about moving forward?
Well, the retreat, we're in a 2-year fundraising and brand awareness phase. We've just finished our first year. Still got another year to do. During my run, I've met dozens and dozens of people in positions of power to help get this retreat developed and up and running, as well as thousands of others that have donated and wanted to be part of it. So we're still trying to progress on top of that, trying to fit all the pieces of the puzzle together. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it's just what I'm doing now. I was up till 1 o'clock this morning working on this. I'm not going to stop. I don't have to. I'm very much sure I'm not going to have time in the next few months to even stop and try to contemplate the fact that I've just done this big challenge and what's next, because at the end of the day, the run, and I was fully aware of this, is just a small part of getting this retreat and this charity, which is going to be hopefully go on forever, as long as I live. It's just a very small part of it. So it's time to put the hard work in now.
100%, brother. So I wanted to ask you any piece of advice for people that are perhaps seeing what you've done, and if they've got the idea to go after something big, maybe they're scared, maybe they think they get embarrassed in front of other people, maybe they just think they can't do it. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I'd say dream big. Your world is as big as you dream, and don't put barriers, don't put things in front of you. If I looked at the 5,000-mile run, the very first day I thought of it and went, oh my God, I've got to do a 5,000-mile run tomorrow, I'll never be able to do it. And I would never have been able to do it because I couldn't. But what I did is I went, I'm going to do a 5,000-mile run. Right, let's work backwards from that. Let's put the plan in place. Now, how do I train for it? What have I got to do? So the first thing I'd done, for example, was I went and done 30 half marathons back to back, over 30 days, a half marathon a day for 30 days, just to see how my body reacted. And if it didn't react well, then fine. Then I know that I'll have to try something differently, or maybe I have to reassess the challenge. So yeah, just don't think of the end result as if it's here and now, because it's not. You've got to go and put some training and enjoy the process, because that's the best part of it. Honestly, when people train for marathons and they're like, I see them for like 12 weeks prior to the marathon going, oh my God, I'm never going to do it. I'm so stressed. I'm like, what is the point of stress? I said, just don't do the marathon. If you're going to be this stressed for 12 weeks, it's not worth one day of elation. Or just calm down, relax, enjoy what you're doing, and then see how the day goes. And don't put so much pressure on yourself. Just enjoy it. Life is here to be enjoyed. And yeah, it's a process, of adventure. So just enjoy it.
Fucking love that, brother. Paul, look, I mean, we're going to drop all the stuff in the notes below the podcast, but, for people that don't want to drop into the notes, what's the best place for them to find out a little bit more about yourself or the charity, and how do they sort of support what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're called Head Up Charity, so you can Google that. We do have a website, which should come up on Google, but it's head-up.org.uk. We're on all the social media pages. We're in the second year of fundraising and brand awareness. So if anyone wants to get involved, help out, if they've got any ideas, please let us know. Whilst I was on the run, I had lots of firefighters actually come out, run with me and be part of it. I had the I don't know what you call them,
probably the Chief Fire Officer, CFO.
Chief Fire Officer of Durham, County Durham, come and run with me and spend a day with me.
There's a lot of blooming triathletes and ultramarathon runners in the fire service for some unknown reason. I've no idea why. But there's a lot of ex-military as well. A lot of people that come out and still want that structure or want a sense of purpose tend to gravitate to things like the fire service.
Exactly, yeah. So I've got lots of friends in the fire service from the military. And our retreat is for anyone who has served and is still serving. So, and it doesn't matter what mindset you're in. You could be in the best mindset or worse. You come and stay with us for 7 days completely for free and just learn multiple ways how you can improve your mindset. So the more people in the fire service who have been in the military that find out about it and come and use our retreat, that's fantastic. They can then go back and spread the word with the rest of their station. And the more people that know, the better.
So all of these techniques and stuff, like I say, and it's often the armed services or the emergency services that are leading the way with a lot of these innovations, but the whole public can benefit from them. And just some of the things you've shared with us today, I hope, tickles people's imagination enough to, head over to the Heads Up website and just pick up on some of those strategies and support those people who are out there keeping us safe.
Yeah, it's like we're all in this together.
Beautiful. Really appreciate that, brother. Some love to the family and everybody. I look forward to catching up again soon.
Okay, thanks very much. Cheers, Pete.
The Firefighters podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.